sex in the pews, sex in the pews, sex in the pews,
sex in the pews.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful day in Tampa Bay. For thank God, it's Monday, January 14th, 2019, the only 1/14/2019 in the history of humanity. Let us continue to choose on purpose, with a purpose, to give a great day. Greetings, you beautiful humans. This is Klein. Welcome in to the Pews, to Sex in the Pews, the inaugural broadcast, the maiden voyage, if you will. We were going to be getting into all things that really make human beings tick. Sexuality and our relationship with the Creator and with each other. And without any further ado, please welcome to Sex in the Pews, if you will, the very lovely and talented Mr. Owen Pratt. Owen!
I couldn't have asked for a better introduction. Thank you so much, Glenn Klein. It is so good to be here and give an amazing show.
Give a great day. See, the whole thing about give, what do people always say? Have a great day. Have a nice day.
It's passive.
Well, it's not only passive, but it is kind of selfish when you think about it. It's self-focused. Having a great day. To have. We just want to have shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I hear you.
Here's the beautiful thing, ladies and gentlemen, is when you realize that the ancient admonition by the Lord, where he said, it is more blessed to give than receive. It's more blessed to give than receive.
So let's give a great day.
Right. Let's give. Now, notice that he did not say, it's only blessed to give. He said, did you hear that? My stomach gurgling? Did that come out? Hopefully you did hear that because that's kind of sexy. Not really. Haven't eaten yet on this beautiful day in Tampa Bay. But that will come later, as other things will. Ladies and gentlemen, he said it is better to give than receive. Not that it's not blessed to receive, but it's more blessed to give. And it's a funny thing about giving. When you give, and when your attitude is to give to your fellow human being, or we're going to talk a lot about this, but how in relationships the man should be giving first to the woman. In my book that will be coming out later, I have a whole chapter on the woman comes first. It's very important. It's important for the man. It's certainly important for the woman. When you have a perspective, how can I give, what can I give into this situation, you are going to be equally rewarded, or at least rewarded to the place that you're satisfied with whatever circumstance you're in. Anybody that's good in bed at all knows that the most pleasurable thing is when your partner is receiving pleasure. I mean, that's the biggest turn on. If you're a man or if you're a woman listening right now and you've been with a partner that is just not into it, and it's one of the problems with guys losing their hard-ons, is that it says to the woman, in that case, you're not into me. What's wrong with me? That's not necessarily the case. We're going to get into that topic too, of course. But the bottom line is our attitude on Sex in the Pews is, what can we give to you? What information, what entertainment, what humor, what laughter, what inspiration can we give to you? And as we are on our inaugural maiden voyage, want to give you a little bit of background how this whole fucking thing came to be. It's a pretty cool story.
This whole fucking thing.
Yeah, this whole fucking thing. That's exactly right. Now, did you mean whole like W-H-O-L-E or whole H-O-L-E?
It's a triple entendre.
Katabashundabashindai.
Cheers.
L'chaim. So, by way of introduction, I have always, my entire life, been interested in human sexuality. And not in just a way of like most horny guys, which, I mean, there's been studies that indicate that men think about sex every 6 seconds. 3, 2, 1. I mean, this is how we were biologically programmed. And I don't know why, it's just how I came out. I just was interested in what makes men and women tick, what works in relationships. And in fact, when I was in college at the University of Wisconsin, I took many courses on human psychology and human sexuality and was involved with a groundbreaking study on the effects of pornography on men with a guy named Dr. Ed Donnerstein. And it was fascinating. I was a research assistant. It wasn't a bad gig. Got an A in the course and got some A during the course of the course.
Ayo.
Dr. Donnerstein was awesome. And what they found out, just as an aside, was that when pornography is, pornography has gotten a bad rap, obviously, and in some cases, rightfully so. But what the research indicates is that when men see images of couples or multiple people having consensual sex, it actually lowers their attitudes towards violence towards women. That's what the study was.
That's a fascinating statistic.
Yeah. And then the other part was that when there is more of a violent or a rapey scene, if you will, that it actually increases men's attitudes towards violence towards women. We want to allow women to maximize their full potential. We want to see that happen. We also want to see men maximize their full potential. And we have an interesting and I think somewhat unique take on what has happened historically between men and women, where we are at in society, and what has to happen for us to right the ship. Obviously, there is something significantly wrong with what's happening in our society vis-a-vis men and women. And we think we have, some clues, and our whole goal is to help you guys and gals to walk in more freedom. Now, I took a detour from interest in human sexuality during my mid-20s to mid-30s because I had a spiritual experience with Christ when I was 25, which plunged me deep into a sect, a cult, if you will. I think all religion's a cult, by the way. But into Christianity, Messianic Judaism, is a long story, and you got to listen to every podcast. It's a law. No, it's not a law, but it's a suggestion, because there's going to be a lot of information that you will find interesting. People hear what kind of shit that's gone down in my life, and like, wow, you really have had a very fascinating life. And I have. I'm in my 60th year on the planet. I have 6 children. I have a grandson now. I have a wonderful ex-wife who we're best friends. And I got my partner, Owen Pratt, in the studio with me. This is Klein. It is Sex in the Pews, ladies and gentlemen. So, I have a very distinct passion, not unique, but distinct for me, passion on spirituality and on sexuality. And Owen and I met, about 6 months ago or thereabouts.
Just about.
And we'll find out Owen's background a little bit. And we were talking about, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a long time. I've done shows on sex before. For 20 years, I've done radio shows on human sexuality after I came out of religion. And I still absolutely think that there's a creator. I think it's logical to think that there's a creator. Having said that, that information informs my opinion on human sexuality and a lot of observation, a lot of research. And as I said, the whole story is going to come out as the podcast and the show rolls on, not just today, but, well, for however long we're going to fucking do it.
Amen, brother.
Yes. So Owen and I were just getting to know each other as we became business partners. And we went out for sushi one night at a local joint here. Good sushi, by the way.
Great sushi.
Yeah.
Kampai.
Orgasmic roll.
Oh, that we were sharing an orgasmic roll.
We were sharing an orgasmic roll, and it was orgasmic in our mouths. So we ran, maybe a bottle into the sake at that point. And so feeling a little lubricated. And Owen looks at me and says, dude, there is nobody that can talk about sex and religion the way you do. And if you pay attention and if you hang in there long enough, you'll know that I knew that you knew that I knew that that was true. It's a very unique take. It's a very sacrilegious approach. It is against religion. It's a very in-your-face. It's the way I communicate. And he said to me, that is your niche, sex and religion. Because the show is just going to be about sex, basically, and about what I've learned over these decades, which, as a life coach, I've been helping my clients in this area for many, many years, and they're finding great success. And we'll talk about what success is defined as we go on. And I said, I know. I said, you're right. And then within basically moments of you saying that, I said, I've got the name for the show. And I said, Sex in the Pews, where sex and religion come together. Yeah, and that's. It's going to be a lot of sex. It's going to be a lot of talk about spirituality, religion, and everything in between. It is not, I promise you, it ain't going to be boring. This is Sex in the Pews. Our website is sexinthepews.com. You can email us at fun@sexinthepew.com. And over time, you'll get to know us even better. But by way of introduction, I want you to get to know the co-host, the producer, and engineer extraordinaire. You know him, you love him, you know that you won't be able to live without him. The very lovely Owen Pratt.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen, and that's right, I am Owen Pratt. And like Glenn said,
Rhymes with brat.
It does. It does.
Were you a brat growing up?
No, I was not.
I like that yes or no answer to a fucking yes or no question. How hard is that?
That's a big lesson. That's a pillar of Sex in the Pews theology, if you will, value system. Answer questions that are asked yes or no with a yes or no answer.
It saves a lot of time.
It does.
So you were not a brat.
I was not a brat.
Were you a nice kid?
I'd say so. My mother describes me as, I was the firstborn. She said that, and she was, of course, she was spiritualizing the situation, but I was God's way of telling her that she should have more children, and that my brother was God's way of telling her that she should not have more children.
That's so loving.
Right. Yes, I come from a small town called Tequesta, Florida.
Tequesta.
On the east coast of beautiful South Florida.
What bigger town is by Tequesta?
It's about 40 minutes north of West Palm Beach.
Ooh, so you were 40 minutes north of the rich people.
Yes, I was. And grew up in a small liturgical Presbyterian church.
When you say liturgical, what does that mean?
That's an excellent question. Liturgical.
That's why I get the big bucks in this partnership.
Liturgical, to my understanding, is old school, if you will, would be a synonym for that. Pews, hymns, robes, tradition. No live bands, no guitars, no.
And there's a liturgy. There's a natural or a normal order of service, correct? You know what to expect when you go into a liturgical service.
Every time, sit, stand here, say, speak this peace prayers, sit, shake your neighbor's hand, touch your neighbor, sing a song at the end. So,
amen.
So that pretty much laid the foundation for my spiritual understanding up until about my teenage years when young Owen blossomed, and then went on to learn that talking to girls was fun and that I could have enjoyable experiences by talking with them, and then kind of left that religious part of my life behind me.
Was when you were growing up in the church, in the Presbyterian church, did they make a big deal out of chastity, about being chaste?
It's really funny because they didn't. And when I was to continue the story, I went into, eventually graduated in college, continued down what the Christian calls it the worldly path, and was drinking and smoking and partying, et cetera, X, Y, and Z. And until I had a conversion experience, probably not too different from the one you had when you were 25.
Well, people do. I mean, this is something we'll talk about a lot. But when the thought hits your brain that you are actually a beautiful human, that's why I refer to everybody as beautiful humans. We are all beautiful inside. When that thought hits you that you have no sin, that you have nothing to be ashamed of, it lightens the load. It's what, not Christianity doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about in this regard, but what Paul, who was a Jewish guy, who was initially named Saul, what he called the salvation of the soul, the renewing of the mind. So yes, people have that experience. Hopefully they don't get sucked into Christianity like you and I did. But the fact of the matter is that it's a wonderful experience and it's ongoing. I mean, let's just take a pause for a second. We'll get back to Owen's story momentarily. It's a beautiful thing on a long-form podcast. We just can talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about and say whatever the fuck we want to say.
Fucking right.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. That if there is a creator, and I firmly think there is, I think it's logical to think that there's a creator. There's a creation. Where there's a creation, there's a creator. I mean, even a dyed-in-the-wool atheist, if they're honest, they'll say that somebody made the cellular device that they're holding in their hand or having in their pocket or their purse at all time. And I will ask the unnamed atheist, have you ever met the person or the people that were involved? No. Do you know what the person or the people who were involved in the making of your device look like? No. Have you ever talked to them? No. Have you ever heard their voice? No. Do you know where they came from? No. But you know somebody was involved in the creation of that device. Yes. Why? How? Because it's logical. If something has order and form to it, is a creation, if you will, it's logical to think that somebody made this table that our equipment is on right now. When I say equipment, I'm talking about our podcasting equipment. Our other equipment is not on there. It's underneath the table. It's logical. And so if that is true, which we think it is, could the same creator, and listen, I don't have a goddamn idea about how this all came to being. I mean, there's passages in the Hebrew scripture, the Tanakh, that indicates that it was spoken into existence. But the thought that this all happened through an unplanned explosion, I mean, could a fucking cell phone be created out of an explosion? Is that logical? I don't think so. And just because I disdain religion doesn't mean that I'm willing to throw out logic just because I may agree with some religious people on some shit. Does that make sense? So the thought that if there is a creator, that we are one and that we are as righteous as Christ himself, as God himself, that brings salvation to the soul. That brings salvation to the mind. Separating it from any religion on the planet. And so when Owen talks about that he had this encounter when you were in your teenage years?
At this point, I was about 20 or 21.
Okay, so you went through your religious years, and then you're at Florida State studying economics and psychology.
Yes, sir.
And banging broads.
Yes, sir.
Now, we use broad in a broadly very loving way. Just so you know that I know that you know. We're going to say a lot of things that may need explanation, but just pay attention. You'll understand that we think that all women, all men are 100% equal. They're just different. Men and women are equal. They're just not the same. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the core of the issue right there. We are equal. If I had to say, if somebody put a gun to my head, is that which is the superior sex? I would say women. But at the very least, men and women are equal, but we're not the same. So you were banging beautiful humans that had vaginas.
I was.
How was that?
God bless America. It was a beautiful thing, and Florida State was an amazing place.
Florida State is not a bad place if you're into beautiful people. It's not a bad place to find some. I would imagine Tallahassee, lovely.
40,000 students, beautiful, beautiful women. The demographic of the gender leaned more women, and particularly strongly in the psychology department.
Nice.
There's usually one of maybe at most 5 guys in a class of maybe 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really a pretty significant Is that why you were a psychology major?
I took an intro to psych class before I signed up for the major and looked around and thought,
There's a lot of tits and ass in this.
this isn't so bad.
There's more tits and ass and dick in this room. Is that what you're trying to say?
That was a fact.
Yes. All right. So, and then you have this encounter that somehow you recognize was with Christ, maybe because your past religious experience.
Yeah.
And then how did that affect your view of your sexuality and the beautiful women that you were seeing at FSU?
So I was approached by these two college evangelists while waiting for said psychology course, and they asked me who I thought Jesus was. And after a few hour-long conversations at the library the following nights, I thought, well, what do we pray now? To which we did, and then I went to church with them.
Wait. You thought that?
Yeah, I was kind of at the end of my rope, and I was like, well, I guess.
Were they offering you to pray?
No, I asked. I was like, well, you guys, all right, yeah, I'm down with that. I can get it. I understand. I'm with it. They explained their whole spirituality and construct of who they thought Jesus was, and I got it. And then we prayed. I went to church with him Sunday, which happened to be a Pentecostal church, and it wasn't until we were on the way that he told me about this speaking in tongues thing, and that services were 2 to 3 hours long.
That was not the Presbyterian liturgical church of your youth.
It was not, ladies and gentlemen, which satisfied my desire to rebel and follow a different path as my parents did.
Oh, so you literally rebelled into religion.
I did.
How was the male to female ratio at the Pentecostal church? were they like the Pentecostals, the long dresses, the buns on the top of the hair or top of the head?
Not that
Pentecostal.
Fundamental, but just charismatic, I would say. More,
Yeah. Laying on of hands.
Oh, yeah.
People falling out.
I got slain in the spirit.
Yeah, people falling, you've seen it, ladies and gentlemen, people getting pushed down, and it's really weird. It's occultic. It's what it is. I participated in that group hypnosis. When you come out of something like that, and let me tell you something, to come out of something like that is hard. Because there's so much psychology and psychological underpinnings to why you get into something like that anyway. See, I had a spiritual experience. I did. But I had no background in religion. I had no background in Christianity. I was raised in a loving, Reformed Jewish home. I was bar mitzvahed. I was, at 13. I was confirmed at 16. I was honored to be asked by my wonderful Rabbi Mark Shapiro, to give one of the sermonettes when I was 16 years old. And I stood up before a couple thousand people at B'nai Joshua Beth Elohim in Glenview, Illinois, and said what I had gained from my Jewish education was an appreciation for being Jewish. But I could not see the existence of God. Are you kidding me? The fucking Holocaust? Fucking cancer for children? And all the suffering on the planet? Where was God in that, if there is a God? There was a little bit of murmuring over there at BJBE on Milwaukee Avenue. But I was rebelling too. But you rebelled back into Christianity, but in a different sect. Charismania, and that's one of the nicknames of it. This is what you guys, I know a lot of you have no idea. Some of you do. But a lot of you, this is the tongue talking, the raising of the hands, the dancing in the aisles, the extreme control. All religion's about control. Religion literally means to religion. It's from a Latin word called religare, which literally means to put back under bondage. Not to put under bondage, to put back under bondage. The concept of the new covenant, of the era that we're living in, theoretically, is that we were freed. It was for freedom that Christ set us free. That's what the understanding is in some of the New Testament writings. Religion puts you back under bondage. Christ said it's like a dog returning to his puke. Fuck that shit.
Fuck that.
No, seriously. So you obviously were a healthy heterosexual male.
Very much so.
Not necessarily obviously, but according to your testimony. Mm-hmm. And for those of you, just go to sexandthepews.com. You'll see a picture of Owen. He's He's okay looking. He's fucking eye candy is what he is. So you're going to garner a lot of attention from the ladies, and you've got a great personality, and now you can't have sex anymore.
You see, it's funny because I have this spiritual experience, this revelation of grace and good news, if you will, and it wasn't until I got more involved with Christianity and the church I was attending at the time, and the teaching started to come, and I started listening and really pressing in to try to understand what they were teaching. And then one day from the pulpit, a sermon was taught about the importance of being abstinent, to which I raised up my hand when the altar call was offered, and I walked forward, and from thenceforth, I had committed myself to attempting to do whatever I could to be sexually, quote unquote, pure.
How long did that last for?
It was a gradual progression. My discipline. Oh gosh, I had a quote unquote relapse, if you will, but I had gone at the most about a year and a half without having sex.
Wait. How old are you at this time?
It was about 21.
So pretty much at your sexual peak.
Yes, sir.
And you had no male to female contact at all.
That's not true. I hadn't had sex in a year and a half.
Is that like Bill Clinton definition of sex? I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. What did Bill Clinton meant? That he hadn't fucked her. That's what he meant. That was a sexual, of course, it was ridiculous. But an entire generation of American young people think that if you get a blowjob, that's not sex. That's fucked up. Did you get a blowjob? It's pretty much a yes or no question.
I don't remember.
Did you get a hand job?
In that whole year and a half? Probably.
Did you see a vagina?
I don't remember.
Did you feel titties?
Yes, definitely did that.
So you're fucked at that point as far as the... Do you ladies and gentlemen understand that these churches around the world ask for that kind of commitment from their young people, and they make them pray and commit to being absent until marriage, before their congregation, before their family and friends, and before fucking God.
It's true.
Jesus Christ. That's fucked up.
It's fucked up.
And then, of course, when the inevitable happens and nature takes its course, the very God that gave them the urge to have sex is now the God saying you can't do what comes natural. That's really messed up. And so, amazingly, since it's called Love Waits. That's the movement that took hold over the last 20 years within this sect of Christianity. Evangelicalism. Love waits. Fuck that. What love needs to do is to understand who they actually are as perfect and righteous and sinless human beings. Then they can make rational decisions. And parents who aren't freaked out about fucking sex can talk to their kids in a logical and rational way so they're not doing stupid shit in their quest to rebel from their church and their fucking families. Jesus.
Public service announcement. Sex is not a sin, ladies and gentlemen.
Amen, brother. So, shockingly, Owen, the rates of anal sex and oral sex skyrocketed in the Christian community, as did oral and anal STDs. Because you know what? There's only one place that you can't put it. Jesus, what a nightmare. But it's classic. It's fucking classic. All right, so you're trying to live out this Christian experience, and knowing you as I do now pretty well, I'm sure you went whole hog, and you're very charismatic, and not charismatic in the church sense, but charismatic in your personality, drawing people, wanting to share.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then what happens?
So towards the end of my Christian journey, I had at this point moved in with a group of guys from the church. It was a mission-based house and intended to be an outreach to the local Christian university, Palm Beach Atlantic. And part of my agreement to be able to live in this house, aside from being a leader for the Bible studies that we would have weekly, was to sign a covenant, which I agreed not to watch porn and masturbate and that alcohol, and that I would really seek wholeheartedly to be a righteous leader.
All right, what was on this list?
The main highlights
You couldn't watch
were
porn.
porn and masturbation.
No masturbation. Were you allowed to have a wet dream?
I don't remember. I didn't
Were you
read fine
allowed to
print.
look at pretty women in public?
You know what they say about that?
What's that?
If you even look after a woman lustfully, you've committed adultery.
Yeah,
in
that's
your
what
heart.
President Jimmy Carter got in trouble for admitting that one way back. That was way before you were born. Carter was running for president, and he was the first born again Christian president, because that's a relatively recent term. And he's a Baptist guy from Georgia, and he does an interview with Playboy as he's running for president against the president Gerald Ford, who took over for Richard Nixon when Nixon resigned. And Jimmy Carter admitted that he had lust in his heart. It was a whole big fucking thing. And Carter's still alive, of course. So maybe a little lust in your heart is a healthy thing.
Maybe.
Who knows? But and I think it is. Okay, no porn, no jerking off. Who knows about wet dreams? What else?
Limited alcohol, no drugs.
Limited alcohol or no alcohol?
So it was funny. I had a conversation with the other guys that came up, and we would drink beer and stuff and hang out, and they were cool. I'm throwing up the air quotes here, But I mean, they were great guys. But it was a big change. It was a big progression for the guy who was leading the house, because that semester that I was moving in, he was allowing alcohol to be in the house. So it was like,
dun, 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 dun,
freedom!
Dun, 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 dun.
You're allowed to have beer.
Yeah, no wine though.
No wine.
All right, so no porn, a little beer, no jerking off, and obviously no sex of any kind.
Yes, sir.
No hand jobs.
Nothing.
So at what point do you break that covenant?
I mean, I was, the guys all quote unquote struggled to try and not watch pornography, because that's one of the biggest issues that Christians struggle with, male Christians struggle with, is watching porn. I heard a statistic, something like 80% of pastors struggle to watch pornography.
Oh, bro, they can track these things on the internet now, and by far, the most porn that is watched is in the Bible Belt. By far. I mean, you could track it. The closer you get to where we live in the beautiful South of America, the United States of America. Yeah, the viewership of porn goes up dramatically, of course, because you can't express yourself, and it's verboten. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something, beautiful humans. If you want to really cause somebody to want something that they would naturally want anyway, but to want it much more, draw a line and tell them they can't do it. Paul, who was a Jewish guy named Saul and wrote a third of the New Testament writings, he said it this way, that the 10 Commandments and the other 603 laws of God in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament, we call it the Old Testament. They didn't call it the Old Testament. They called it the Holy Scriptures. But there weren't 10 commandments. There were 613 fucking commandments. And he said that was given not to give you a blueprint for living, as many in religion says, biblical marriage, biblical child raising, biblical tithing, biblical whatever the fuck. He said that the reason that law was given was to add power to the thing that you're being tempted with anyway. God wanted mankind to really fuck up, and it worked really well. And that was the need for the redemptive work in Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. This is Klein. It is Sex in the Pews, the inaugural maiden voyage with Owen Pratt. Glad to have you along for the ride. Check out the website at sexinthepews.com. You can email us at fun@sexinthepews.com. And we are just taking one day at a time, want to see people lifted in their understanding of the male-female dynamic, understanding in human sexuality, accept a life of sex and pleasure without shame. And of course, the number one cause of shame is guilty religion. So I'm going to do a little exercise to prove how this works. You tell people that you can't do something. Okay? I want you guys to do something for me. Promise me something. I want you to promise me that you will never, ever, ever, the rest of your life, not think about a pink elephant.
Instantly thought of a pink elephant.
Of course. In fact, here's what's going to happen now. A month from now, you're going to be driving down I-75, or our listeners are going to be going wherever they're taking a shower or whatever they're doing. And the thought of a pink elephant is going to come to their brain. They're going to say, fuck you, Glenn Klein. I never thought of a pink elephant before. I've seen pink elephants, but I never think of them independently because I told you not to. If you want to cause further problems, if you want to cause people to act in a way that you perhaps might not want them to act, tell them not to do it. This is the problem with marriage. The modern construct of marriage, which is if you are quote unquote married to somebody or in a committed relationship, an exclusive relationship, you can never, ever, ever not think about a pink elephant. You can never fuck another person the rest of your life.
What are you saying here, Glenn? It sounds like you're trying to pull the rug out from underneath the organization and the institution of marriage.
I'm not doing shit. The rug has been pulled out a long time ago. I mean, if there's anything that's obvious in our society, is that religion, government, and marriage are fucking broken.
Healthcare, I'll throw that one in there.
That's under the auspices of government.
True.
Marriage is a construct of Christianity. And, dude, the United States was founded by Puritans. That's how the whole thing started. The people that came over here initially were ironically looking for religious freedom. But they had a twisted sense of spirituality. They had a twisted sense of sexuality, clearly. There were a lot of good things that happened during the course of the formation of the United States, of America. I credit President Obama for that one. He was the first one that he would, most of the presidents, when they end their speech, they say, God bless America. But he would say, God bless the United States of America. I just put the emphasis on of America. Now you know.
Now you know.
The rest of the story. We have a unique foundation in this country. And religion has been pervasive in our attitudes towards sex to the point where even atheists will say that they'll be in a committed relationship, and you ask an atheist if you're in a committed relationship or an exclusive relationship, if your partner can have sex with somebody else, they're like, no. That's cheating. That's grounds for breakup. Where do atheists get that concept from?
If I had to guess, some form of religar.
Religar, that's right. A return to bondage. One of the most destructive patterns and the reason that we have what we have in relationships today is because we still have a religious mindset about relationships, and yet we're living in the 21st century. It's 2019 now, for Christ's sake. And we had this thing called the sexual revolution. You may have heard of it. We had this thing called women's rights movement. You might have heard of it.
Got free the nipple.
Yeah, we have free the nipple even now. Hallelujah to you. and women have found their clitoris, thank God. But we're still cavemen.
Was it
men.
missing? Where did it go?
It was there. They just didn't know it for 10,000 years or during recorded history.
How do you make that conclusion?
Because sex was for men. Let me tell you something. There was not a sex toy industry. There was all kinds of industries going on. There wasn't a sex toy industry for women up until just the last few decades. And there could have been, certainly. Marriage, the modern construct of marriage, is destroying people's lives. Now, I know that there are happy married couples. My folks have been together for 60 years, married 67 years. My daughter and her husband have been together since they were 16, and they've been married since 2011, I think. No, 2012. They're very happy. clearly. We just celebrated my folks' 60th wedding anniversary. Owen got to come over and meet everybody.
I did.
A good family, right?
Great family.
Yeah, pretty cool group of beautiful humans. But that's the exception. And my folks were the last generation. Hannah and Angel, they're your generation. They're the new generation. It's so unusual. It's an unrealistic expectation. My kids, I've got 6 of them, they know how I feel about this shit. So maybe they kind of rebelled too a little bit. But whatever trips your trigger.
Fell back into marriage.
They're free to do whatever they want to do. But I mean, listen, all I can do as a friend and as a father and as a parent and as a fellow sojourner is share what I think and what I believe to be true. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. The show, ladies and gentlemen, is giving mostly opinion, based on observation, based on research, and I have found it to be very successful with primarily the men, because most of my clients as a life coach are men. And to the degree that you find it entertaining and enlightening and informative, stay with us. It ain't going to be boring, that I promise you. Marriage is fucked up. I mean, listen, statistically, I remember when Dawn and I went and got divorced, we were together for 22 years, 2 years before we got married, 20 years, and then we got divorced. And in Florida, in the great state that we reside, they make you go to divorce class. It was the thing that the right wing threw in to kind of slow down the process of divorce. And whether you could argue that's the role of the government or not, that's a whole other discussion. So if you have children, you have to go to divorce class. And so Dawn and I went to Hillsborough Community College cafeteria, fairly decent-sized cafeteria here in Tampa. And we walked in, and there were about 50 families represented there. And we were only one of 2 couples that was there. The rest were all the women. Now that says something right there. I mean, where the fuck were the men? Not taking seriously the responsibility, obviously. And it was a guy instructor, and he stood up right at the beginning of the class, and he said, 58% of first marriages end in divorce, 70% of second marriages end in divorce, and 90% of third marriages end in divorce. And he said, Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, it's called marriage, ladies and gentlemen. You're not the problem. Your spouse isn't the problem. Your boyfriend's not the problem. Your girlfriend's not the problem. You're not the problem. The fucking paradigm is the problem. Government and religion make good people liars. It makes good people that would never lie in most situations lie from on their taxes, lie about their desires sexually, lie about their sexual liaisons. Let me ask you a question, though, if I can. Would you consider us friends at this juncture?
I would.
And I mean, you can be a business partner with somebody, ladies and gentlemen, without being a friend. But we're friends, right?
Correct.
And we've shared some pretty intimate shit.
Correct.
If I came to you and told you that I had a date Saturday night, and it's a wonderful woman I met, and we hit it off. She's a hoot. She's smart. She's pretty. And she gave me like the greatest Hummer I've had in a while.
A Hummer?
Yeah.
Is that a slang? Is that a euphemism? Or is it like the truck?
Well, it is a truck, and there's a reason they call it a Hummer, by the way.
I don't know if I've ever heard that one before.
You've never heard a blowjob referred to as a Hummer?
No.
And here, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call a generational gap right here. Yes, a beautiful blowjob, a wonderful oral sex experience. All right? If I told you I had this with this woman, and what a fun night. We just had a great night. As my friend, how would you feel about that? How would you feel towards me?
Right on, dude.
Be happy for me?
It's pretty dope, yeah. Happy for you.
Pretty dope.
You heard that one before?
Yes, thank you. I have, because I have kids, and I kind of stay a little bit culturally relevant. Relevant, yes. Now, if I have a significant other, and let's say I was on business out of town, my significant other, my spouse, girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, etc. You're supposed to be the most honest and open, most intimate, and most caring, and most wanting them to have the greatest life ever, right?
That's correct.
Could I share that information with my wife or my girlfriend?
No.
No. There's something wrong, not morally wrong, but there's something ineffective and unproductive about a relationship and a paradigm that would allow me, who I've known you for 6 months, to share that information. You'd be like, right on, bro. You know, that's dope. That's awesome, dude. As opposed to my lifelong committed partner who not only wouldn't be happy for me, that's ground for a fucking divorce or a breakup. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful humans, you are righteous and perfect just as you are. The sexual desire that you have is natural. Now what do we do with it? How do we deal with it effectively? How do we deal with it logically? How do we deal with it rationally and with humor? That's what Sex in the Pews is all about. It's just we want to move the ball forward. I'll say it even more boldly. We are moving the ball forward. And if you want to be part of this thing, just go to sexinthepews.com, sign up for our newsletter. You can email us at fun@sexinthepews.com. You can sign up for the contest, the Dick Pick of the Week.
Dick Pick of the Week, ladies and gentlemen. This is our way of encouraging a new form of dick pic.
Yeah, let's just do a dick tease, if you will.
We'll tease them with the dick.
Yeah, so just go to sexinthepews.com, see what the Dick Pick of the Week contest is all about. You won't be bored. I want to thank the aforementioned Hannah and Angel Chiclana and their company, Reaction Productions. You can go see them at reactionproductions.com for doing the amazing jingles that we hear on this quality broadcast. Thank you, sir, Owen Pratt.
It's been a pleasure.
You can check us all out throughout social media, and as I said before on several occasions, sexinthepews.com. We will do this again because, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you call organized fun
with a purpose.
And until that time, this is Glenn Klein saying, Shalom, everybody.
Bitches.